Hey chess lovers, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is dhairyabagga and I'll take you through a game that I played a month back. This was 3 minute blitz. I was right here against a similar player, probably just 20 odd higher in the current given form of things, and started off with d4. Opponent goes with d5, standard response generally. Knight to f3, developing the knight first and then going with the bishop, probably going for the London system. Knight comes to f6 for the opponent. I go with bishop to g5 instead. The idea behind g5 is sometimes you're trying to pin this diagonal once the pawn is moved, so that knight is pinned and then queen is kind of stuck over there. Pawn comes to e6. I go with knight b to d2, trying to connect both my knights. Also, in the future, the idea is to play e4. I can probably trade and then go for the center. Opponent plays bishop to e7. So if I now trade, so the pin has been removed. Development of the bishop is also done. Opponent can castle. I can take the knight, and the trade-off will happen. So I play c3 instead, developing my another pawn, trying to create a small pawn chain, maybe pyramid in the future. If I don't go for, of course, e4. Open castles. I play queen to c2. It's a nice diagonal for the queen, always attacking the h7 square, which can be a weakness in the future. Opponent develops the other knight to d7, connecting both the knights. I go with e4 now, trying to exploit the center. The opponent, of course, can take here, but the thing is, I can also take back. I have also got. I'll have an extra pawn eventually. Otherwise, I can first take the bishop, and then the trade-off will be fine. There's no problems with that. Opponent takes the pawn. Here I take with the knight. Knight takes knight, and now I have to be careful. If I take knight with the queen, opponent will take the bishop, and if I take back, I will lose another piece because of the battery here. So now I take the bishop first. Opponent has to take the bishop back because otherwise queen is lost. So queen takes bishop. Now I take. Now we are in an equal position with the material. Here opponent plays knight to f6, developing the knight, giving bishop breathing space as well, and also defending the h7 pawn. I go with queen to h4, again pinning this knight because now you cannot move the knight. The queen will be lost. Opponent plays c5, trying to break open the center. I go with bishop to d3. My idea is again to attack on the h7. Right now, there are two attackers, so the knight is quite bound here not to move, even if the opponent removes the queen in future. Opponent takes on the d4. I take back with the knight now. Opponent develops the bishop to d7, trying to maybe eventually put it on c6. The idea is to probably attack g2 in the future, so I castle first. Opponent pushes the bishop now to c6. I take with the knight because here, if you see after the trade-off, opponent has got isolated pawn, which is a weakness in the end game, and I can definitely exploit that. Rook comes in front of queen. Basically, the idea is always to keep rooks in front of the queen, so that in future, if the pawn trade happens, I have the advantage. Opponent goes for c5. I put the rook now to e3. The idea is eventually to take the rook even either to h3 or f3, trying to attack the knight. Because if I take the knight, this attack is successful. Opponent plays rook to b8, attacking the pawn on b2, which is now easily up for grab. I go with I go with rook to f3, attacking the knight, continuing with the same plan. Opponent plays rook to d8 here. Now the idea is to take the bishop if things go wrong. I put my bishop first on a safety square, which is c2. Opponent now takes the pawn, attacks the bishop. But now comes rook takes knight on f6. Now the thing is, if you take, of course, I can continue with some different variation here. Maybe double up, maybe just take another pawn, or maybe just get it back so that things are defended. That's a fair idea. If opponent takes the rook, which the opponent does, now I can take the h7 pawn. It's defended. Bishop is defended with the queen, and so it's a good one. Opponent plays king to f8. Remember, the opponent had moved the rook. The idea was great, gives the breathing space to the king. Now I have to save my bishop. So bishop comes to e4. A central square can go to any diagonal later on in the future, depending on where I want to use it. Here, opponent takes the pawn, tries to exchange. So if I now this can be blunder. I had end game. If I take the rook, it's a checkmate. So back rank weakness, you have to save the rook. Also, if you notice, queen is attacking on f2 along with the rook. So this can be deadly. Opponent missed it earlier, otherwise could have taken advantage. Now I come back with the rook to f1, defending the pawn. Then opponent plays rook to d2, trying to develop the rooks. I go with pawn to c4. Was just trying to save the pawn at that moment, nothing much. Opponent tries to exchange the rooks. I play pawn to g3 so that if opponent takes, I can take back and then probably move to a safer square in the future. Opponent takes, I take. Now comes rook to d4 because opponent saw that I can simply put my king to g2 and save it. So now rook to d4 attacks the bishop as was the pawn. I go with bishop to c6. Now that's a great square to be at because you're controlling the e8 square. Opponent tries to attack the bishop, but that's the blunder I required. Queen to h8 is a check. The only space the king has is e7 and then a checkmate. So I was down on material here, rook against bishop. Opponent had an extra pawn as well, and doesn't matter. You can find ways to win. I hope you enjoyed it and there was something to learn from it. If you did, please do subscribe to the channel, and I shall see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye bye.